Do you or someone you know scoff at the very thought of watching a black and white movie? Do your eyes roll into the back of your head accompanied by an ugh sound when you realize there isn't any color? Don't worry, you're not alone. Even Spielberg's kids have complained about it.
Hello everyone, we're back. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about some new releases, some 2025 releases. Some of these aren't new anymore because they've been out for a few months. This is the second quarter. These are some of the albums. I'm not talking about every album, but I'm talking about most of the albums, new releases that I've picked up on vinyl. As always, I'm streaming a lot of music. I will include my spreadsheet where I have documented everything that I've listened to this year and how I rated it. The first album I'm going to talk about came out in April. It's the newest from Valerie June. Owls, Omens, and Oracles. Definitely a Valerie June fan. Her second, I believe is her second album, is one of my favorite albums that came out in that year. I believe it came out in 2017. Her last record was a good record. The production got elevated to another level, kind of moved her out from a rootsier vibe. She got into a little bit more kind of like, dare I say, chamber pop, you know, mixed with R&B. And I think you take that expanded palette, but then the production style kind of changes when you bring in somebody like M. Ward, who produced this record. And to me, it's a winning combination. I've always loved the sound of M. Ward's albums. He's just one of those artists that has a very distinct style in his recordings. And you can hear his fingerprints, that blueprint that he has for his own stuff, you can hear it all over this record. Okay, the next record I'm going to talk about is The Black Bolts by Tunde Adebimpe. I never can say his last name properly, and I apologize. Nonetheless, one of my favorite vocalists, really, in modern rock. The lead singer, co-vocalist, co-songwriter of TV on the Radio. This is his first solo record. TV on the Radio has always had just a jam-packed sound, almost at times claustrophobic. Yet I've always kind of been into it. I've kind of been into how layered and dense it is. This, not as dense. And I think that works to its favor. You also have him kind of mixing and messing around with a lot of different genres. You have stuff that's kind of dancey, like the single Somebody New. God Knows uses a pedal steel. Now, it's not like a Americana or country sounding song, but it's still very cool use of pedal steel. The song Drop is built all around a beatbox. Fantastic song. And then you have a song like Pen Stack, which is kind of garagey and then goes into this kind of like reggae beat. Like in the end, it's a really wild track. The producer and collaborator is Wilder Zoby. It's one of my favorite albums of the year. I was really looking forward to it, especially after I heard the first couple of advanced tracks, and the whole album delivers. It's not a disappointment at all. The Black Bolts by Tunde Adebimpe.
I'm gonna try it for myself. I'm gonna need somebody's help in this life, in this lifetime. Cast an extraordinary spell on this life, in this lifetime, and rise into the night.
Okay, our next record is Luster by Maria Somerville. It's on 4AD. This is Maria Somerville's second record. It's the first one that I've ever actually listened to. I heard a track from one of those kind of like recommended playlists or something like that, and decided to give it a shot. It's an absolutely gorgeous record. Everything from kind of ambient landscapes to dream pop, kind of think like Cocteau Twins, maybe even other stuff that you've maybe heard on kind of like classic 4AD records. I don't know if that's really why she's on this label, but maybe. Okay, you've probably seen a few people, I know you've already seen a few people talk about this album, and it's In Revision by Material Objects. Now, yes, Dom is a bit of a VC pal of mine, but I promise that I'm going to give an honest review of this record. And I'm not going to walk a tightrope or anything here, okay? This album sucks. Big time. I don't know why I bought this, to be quite honest. It's their third release. Their first two records were EPs. Those were okay. They were all right. This one, it's got its moments. What does it sound like? I saw my friend Elliot Cruz talk about it, and he couldn't even really explain it because Elliot doesn't listen to music after 1954. I'll try and explain it to you the best that I can. If you're into really great bands like Shellac, Jawbox, Unwound, this band is not for you. The other thing I'd say about it is that surprisingly, there's some really good earworms on this record. There's some really kind of catchy melodies. I hope I'm not supposed to say that about a band like this, but there really are. Also guys, if you need your vocalist to sound like Tom York, if you need your vocalist to sound like Linda Ronstadt, Kate Bush, Jeff Buckley, well, you're not going to get that with this album. If you can listen to music that a lot of people consider like really excellent music, like Sonic Youth and Pavement and Yo La Tango, but they don't really think that the vocals are all that great, then maybe this is for you. And finally, I'll say, the last song, Augment Center, if you're one of those people that is not really into transcendent guitar that sounds almost kind of psychedelic in ways, like if you're just not into like a classic album closer, then you're probably not gonna like Augment Center. Like it's probably not gonna be for you. So I don't know, guys, it just doesn't really do much for me. The artwork is, pretty cool. At least that, right? Like nice kind of, yeah. It's got a cool little insert showing all the hard work that they put into it, and In Revision, Material Objects. All right, let's move on to the next record. Okay, the next album is from Alan Sparhawk, and this is Alan Sparhawk with Trampled by Turtles. I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. I'm biased. I'm a huge Low fan. So I love Alan Sparhawk. I've listened to the majority of his side projects as well. And this album is absolutely incredible. I remember seeing it announced and I wasn't sure about how it would sound. It's far much more in the Alan Sparhawk realm than it is the Trampled by Turtles realm. That being said, I don't know, I think a lot of people misunderstand Trampled by Turtles. And when I picked this up in the record store, I had ordered it, to pick up. And when I got there and they gave it to me from behind the counter, both one of the guys that works in there plus the owner of Lunchbox were both like, Alan Sparhawk and Trampled by Turtles? Like, they were really kind of like shocked by that. But they have a relationship. They're friends. They're from the same area. And Alan Sparhawk actually produced this Trampled by Turtles album. So after Mimi died, not that long after, really, just months after, Trampled by Turtles went on tour. They asked Alan to go along with them. And I think it was something that served him well in that time. He even got on stage and performed some. So I think that these guys made a lot of sense as collaborators for where he wanted to go next. Now, this comes off the heels of his album that came out last year, White Roses, My God, a very different sounding record from anything that Alan Sparhawk's ever done. The vocoder vocals are so heavy, you really can't understand anything that he's saying. Now, I know the last couple of Low records were a lot more experimental and there was use of vocal effects and things like that, but this is on a whole nother level. White Roses, My God. And now, I think it's a really interesting record. I thought it was good. I thought it was an amazing artistic statement and kind of the right thing for him to do, considering Mimi's death and what people might expect from him moving forward, right? It was kind of a palate cleanser, if you will, of an album. And this kind of brings back in, I would say, the Low fans a little bit more. It's not necessarily slowcore, but it does remind me of some of the folkier songs that you've heard on latter career Low albums. But it also has some real strong, like, avant-garde moments. The song Screaming Song is a highlight and one I think you'll hear other people talk about. And critics will probably even point that one out in their reviews. It just has this like just screeching violin, this kind of John Cale screeching violin in it that is just amazing and not something that you would necessarily expect from Trampled by Turtles, right? Even though I think that it's something they're a little bit more capable of than people might realize. His daughter Hollis sings on a couple of the tracks, and that really pulls at the heartstrings a little bit. You can't help that. Yeah, it's just an outstanding record. Alan Sparhawk with Trampled by Turtles, and it does make sense. Okay, and then the last album I'm going to talk about is Sounds Like Flory by the band Flory. Flory is out of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area, I believe. Americana, alt country, kind of mixed with rock. Their previous two records, the first I ever heard of them was their second record. This is their third release. And I thought their second record was pretty good. I got to it through it's on Dear Life Records. And so obviously listening to some other artists that are on Dear Life. I thought it was a pretty good album. There were things that didn't hit for me with it necessarily, but I heard a couple of the advanced tracks off this album and they immediately grabbed me in a way that nothing else that they had released before has. The opening track, first it was a movie, then it was a book, is outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. Francie Madosh, Madosh, I don't know how you say her name, is an excellent lyricist. And you can kind of hear it that in the song titles, like what I just said. First it was a movie, then it was a book, or Truck Flipped Over 19. Like it just sounds like, okay, you're about to get like kind of a journal entry, if you will, in a song. And I love that. I love that about a lot of the songs on this album. I'm not completely sure recording this. I should have double checked before I said this on video, but I believe that this is technically the first album as a fully realized band. I think the two previous records were more of just kind of like a recording project with friends, maybe some of the people involved on this album, but it was really Francie's kind of project. This is more of like a full band kind of effort, even though she's still the principal songwriter. My biggest takeaway from this album, aside from it being probably at the top of my list right now, as things stand with 2025 releases, is that it's got a very kind of modern, loose feel to it, much like if you're really into MJ Linderman or Wednesday, Flory's going to be right up your alley, right? There's just a looseness to it, a youthful vibe and energy to it, but it also has like a throwback quality that you can't ignore, and it makes me think of Sticky Fingers and parts of Exile on Main Street. It's a very Stones-esque vibe at times, for sure. You know, I'm gonna say her vocals are not for everybody, but you know, I find them quite charming, and I think that they work incredibly, and I think that it's one of the more interesting things about the sound of the band Flory.
Check it out. Last night I watched a movie. Movie made me sad, 'cause I saw myself and everyone. How they make a movie like that? Woo! Not just go for watercolors. Maybe paint by number. I need to see myself doing something, and I won't be such a bummer.
Okay, guys, that'll be it. Hope everybody's doing well. We'll see you in the next video. All right, bye.
Digital gramophone makes no sense.